Okay, what's good, everyone? It's Nigel here, Trinidad Empowerment Network. So, I mean, this is insanity. This is absolute madness. Trinidad and Tobago, we could barely contain the criminals we have in Trinidad and Tobago, let alone trying to take on another country. A country that's, whether you like it or not, is essentially our neighbor. What is going on, Trinidad and Tobago? What is going on with the leadership in Trinidad and Tobago? This is madness. It's Donald Trump-esque insanity. Weapons from Trinidad, Venezuelan terrorist, Coast Guard on deadly force orders. Trinidad and Tobago is spiraling into madness, and the people have no say in it. So let's break this down.
TNT territory is off limits to them. If Mr. Cabello's comments are a veiled threat to enter TNT territory, they should reconsider any such intention. The fact is that as a responsible government, we have to take all threats against any incursion into our territory seriously. I will speak to Minister of Defense and Attorney General to seek advice on protections for our Coast Guard, to use deadly force on any unidentified vessel entering TT waters from Venezuela, smuggling military able-bodied men and women. TNT is off limits to them. Following comments from Maduro and Cabellos, we now have to take seriously the threat by that government sending their agents into our country to commit acts that can be adverse to our own welfare. We will also have to take a look at how we go forward with Venezuelan migrants here who are military aged and able-bodied men and women. We have to take this threat seriously now. They have done this before. They made similar propaganda comments about Guyana and Colombia whenever they had interior political problems or elections, and then they engage in border skirmishes with violence. We will take these threats very seriously. I want to tell further TNT drug and human traffickers, smugglers, who are masquerading as fishermen. If you enter Venice waters to do your illegal acts and you're caught by Venice authorities, you are on your own. I repeat, you are on your own. No amount of family crying on Ian's programs will cause us to intervene. Mr. Cabello.
Let's break down what has recently transpired, what is occurring as we speak, and I hope this gets squashed immediately. So Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro claims that a group of armed terrorists, including Colombians, even a Trinidadian citizens, he claimed, was captured trying to enter Venezuela from Trinidad and Tobago. They were captured carrying war-grade weapons. This already sounds outrageous. This sounds absolutely outrageous. But that's his claim. A claim. Remember that word. That's his claim. No evidence, his claim. The fallout is now happening. The fallout is even more dangerous. This is insanity. So, here is what Nicolas Maduro claimed. Nicolas Maduro stood in front of Venezuelan state media, and said a group of what he called terrorists were captured attempting to enter Venezuela from Trinidad and Tobago with a shipment of weapons of war. That is his claim, and that is what he claimed in front of the media. Captured carrying a shipment of weapons of war. He claimed the so-called, or the fascists, he called them so-called fascist far right, are being trained in Ecuador And he also made it clear that Venezuela will retaliate against anyone they believe is trying to destabilize his country. Then his interior minister dropped another bomb. He claimed a Trinidadian citizen was allegedly involved. A Trinidadian citizen was allegedly involved. Let that sink in. Let that sink in. Now, Trinidad is implicated in this. So, by the way, this is just a claim. This is just a claim coming from the Venezuelan prime minister or president. In response, our prime minister, this is where it gets ridiculous, right? This is what is going on, Trinidad. What someone explained to me. Our prime minister responded. Instead of asking to try and diplomacy, that went out the window straight away. She's responded by saying, I've instructed the Coast Guard to use deadly force against any unidentified Venezuelan vessels entering our waters. You what? Deadly force. Not diplomacy, not investigation, not a UN appeal or Caribbean unity. Deadly force. We can't even contain the criminals we have in Trinidad, let alone threatening to use deadly force against a already crazy neighbor. Just shoot to kill at a time when our neighbor is unstable, armed, and under international sanctions. This is reckless. It's inflammatory. And worst of all, it puts the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago living near the Gulf, especially, at serious risk. At serious risk. This is insanity. Making threats to a country that's already on the edge, a country that's clearly on the edge, with all of the sanctions being placed on Venezuela from the West, from America, from Europe. They're unable to sell their own oil, hence why they're linking up with Russia and the rest of the world now to sell the natural resources they have, because they have so many sanctions put on them. So Prime Minister Rowley got involved in this as well, of course. He didn't hold back. And he called Kamla's statement madness and stupid. Madness and stupid. He said, words to the effect of, I'm not going to quote directly, but he said to throw down a deadly force gauntlet to Venezuela can only be viewed as an unnecessary burning of our bridges with a friendly neighbor. Those were his words. He also called it a thinly veiled attempt to curry favor abroad. I assume he means America, to stay in the good books of America. As we know, America hates Nicolas Maduro, America despises Venezuela, and they are currently on the restricted list. So even Rowley, a man not known for soft words and, a man that's not known for his diplomacy as such, sees how this conflict is clearly insane. This is not something we should be amping up or making threat that we can't deliver on. There is no way we could deliver on the threats we're making right now. This is akin to the school ground fight where your friend's getting into a fight using big words, but knowing full well he's hoping that you pull him back or pull her back if they get into a fight. Let's stop pretending, though. Let's also stop pretending Venezuela's collapse is largely, or it's largely due to themselves. It's largely due to the US sanctions blocking them from selling oil and gas or accessing international reserves. They've had so much sanctions placed on them that they can't sell their own products. Hence why they're in the hellhole that they find themselves in. Even Shell had to pull out of the Dragon's Gas project, as you know, if you watch this channel, because of US pressure. So yes, people are fleeing Venezuela because it's in dire straits, in real trouble. But they're not just running from the so-called dictator, Nicolas Maduro, as the West calls him. They're running from a country that's been economically strangled, like I say, economically strangled by the West. So now we have our leaders cozying up to those same foreign interests and posturing with military threats that we clearly cannot deliver on. We clearly cannot deliver on this threat. This is why I call this absolute insanity. This is puppet politics. The only way I can describe this as is puppet politics. To drag Trinidad and Tobago into this dangerous geopolitical game is absolutely insane. It's absolutely insane. We are not prepared. We are not prepared for anything like this. We have no defense strategy. Our immigration policy, by the way, is shocking. And clearly, no leadership grounded in wisdom or restraint based on the statement from our leader. No leadership grounded in wisdom or restraint. No diplomacy. You don't issue deadly force threats to essentially what is our neighbor, a sovereign neighbor, by the way, over a developing, unconfirmed claim. These claims are unconfirmed, especially when we depend on Venezuela to a small degree for gas deals and, of course, security corporations, let alone regional stability. That's another discussion altogether. The last thing Trinidad needs is this. This is insanity. And listen, I said we depend on Venezuela. We don't depend on Venezuela a whole lot for a lot, but they are our neighbors at the end of the day. They are 15 minutes away from Trinidad and Tobago. Whether we like it or not, they are on our doorsteps. So right now, we need cooler heads. We need diplomacy. And we need leaders who understand how to navigate a crisis without creating conflict. This is what I call this Trump-esque in its delivery. It's like putting the cart before the horse. It literally is putting the cart before the horse and not thinking before you speak and saying something you will later possibly regret, because I guarantee you we cannot deliver on this threat. This ain't time for political posturing. It is not time for political posturing. It's time to grow up, or we need grown-up governance. We need grown-up governance in Trinidad, not this nonsense. I don't know who we think we are. The next statement she released probably be roll out the matic. This is madness. Madness. And I cannot reiterate how insane this is enough. So we need to speak up, because if we don't speak up, we might wake up to a conflict in Trinidad and Tobago we didn't ask for, and one we cannot escape. So this news is developing, still ongoing. I hope it gets squashed immediately. I think it likely would. This is not to scare anyone, but we don't need this. We don't need this. This is the last thing Trinidad and Tobago needs. So it needs to be squashed. We need diplomacy. We need politicians with cool heads to sit down and have a discussion. We need to possibly speak to the UN if that helps our situation, CARICOM if that helps. But the last thing we need to do is trying to escalate or playing the big I am, which we ain't. We ain't. So time for cool heads. We need to settle down and kind of, know your place or know our place, because we don't need this conflict. We do not need this conflict. And that's my take. So the news is developing. I'm reporting it as best as I can as more comes forward. Keep tuned or stay tuned to Trinidad Empowerment Network. 84% of you are not subscribed, by the way. 84%. That's terrible. Terrible. So please do me a favor, like and subscribe to the channel, and that way we could build the channel and hold those in power to account. This is what the channel is about. The bigger we grow, the bigger voice we have, and the more we are able to hold these insanity, this craziness that's happening, the people in charge to account. Because this is madness. Like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in my next video. For now, much love, God bless, take care. Peace, and I mean that. Peace.